So Madam Chair and members, that's all we have for Spotlight on Success this evening.
Thank you. Well, we will continue our agenda. The next on our agenda is public comments. We'll turn it over to Mrs. Murchison.
Yes, for public comments, we have one individual who has signed up. Want to remind people that board members will not respond to or address speakers' comments. Comments regarding particular individual employees, student records, or other matters which are required to be kept confidential may not be discussed in this open forum. All comments are expected to be respectful and civil for ordinary rules of order in the forum, and individuals will have 3 minutes in which to make their comments. I will be the timekeeper. You know, your time is up. And we have Mr. Vincent Curran.
Is this right? Yes, okay. Good evening, board members. I am Vincent Curran. I am a father of 5 with 4 in school right now. Currently, there's an issue that I've been working with the schools at the elementary school. We have not been flying the American flag since December of last year. I have contacted the elementary school. I have not gotten an answer back. When I finally got an answer back, it was through a third party, one of the teachers who came up and addressed the issue with me when I was dropping my kids off. They told me if I were to provide the flag, that they would fly the flag. This was 3 weeks ago. I provided said flags. The flags are still not flying. I have yet to get an answer. I have not gotten a phone call back. I have tried contacting the district, and when I brought the issue up at the district, some lady at the desk told me they would take my number, because no one was working at that time, and then they would contact me back. No one contacted me back, so I called back the next day. Still never heard back. Again, we're going on a year for the elementary school. Now the middle school, Sandy Grove Middle School, is also not flying their flag. They used to fly their flag up until the end of last school year. I do not know why they're not. I have not addressed it with this school as I have been dealing with the elementary school. I would like to get the issue addressed. I would prefer not to have to go any higher than this, but I will if I have to. I tried to keep this at the lowest level, but we're going on almost half a school year. So that is all I have.
Thank you. Madam Chair, that's the only public comment we have.
Okay, we will continue then with our agenda. Next, we have consent agenda. We had 3 items on there. We had an opportunity to go over those and to read those. Are there any questions concerning any of the consent agenda? If none, maybe get a motion to approve.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I move to approve the consent agenda.
maybe get a second.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we approve our consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it, so the agenda's been approved. Next, we have our action items. In our action items, we will turn it over to our superintendent.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. This evening, we do have 2 action items. Action item number 1 is the 21-22 financial audit. At this time, I would like to ask Lanae Chavis to begin this presentation and introduce Dale Smith to provide our audit.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We have Dale Smith with Anderson, Smith and White here this afternoon to present our 21-22 audit. They came in and did our financial review back in the 1st of September, and he's prepared the report for this afternoon. Mr. Dale Smith.
Good evening, board members, Dr. Dallas. Hope you're all doing well. I think each of you already have a bound copy of the report. I think y'all probably provided a PDF copy as well. We'll go over just a few pages out of the report this evening. The financial statements are broken up into 2 main sections. There's a financial section that covers, I think it's the first 59 pages of the report, followed by a compliance section, starting on page 60. So if you would, let's turn to page 13 and we'll look at the district's general fund balance as of June 30th, 2022. And I'd also point out what y'all are turning that on pages 1 through 3 of the report is the financial statement opinion letter, which is a clean, unmodified opinion. And that's exactly what the district wants to receive on that report. Okay, and page 13 is the balance sheet of the governmental funds of the district. And we'll be looking, to begin with at the first column, which is your general fund. And if you look at the top, the district had, total assets of $3,158,915 at June 30th. And that was composed primarily of cash and cash equivalents, which were $3,142,338. And there in the middle, the district had total liabilities of $1,862,980. And your assets minus your liabilities gives you your fund balance at June 30th, which is the next to last number in that first column of $1,295,935. And this amount represents an increase of approximately $194,000 over the amount that was reported in the prior year. And most of the districts that we've audited so far this year and last year have seen their fund balances increase, primarily due to all of the COVID funding that's flowed through the districts. And as I mentioned to you all last year, with all the uncertainty in the economy right now, we feel like it's very good and a very wise budgeting strategy to try to build up your fund balance as much as you can right now. A lot of costs are going to be going up. You've got the minimum wage increases. Retirement rates seem to go up every year. Healthcare costs go up every year. So again, we feel like it's very wise to try to build that fund balance up as much as you can here in these years leading up to the expiration of that federal COVID funding, which I think is supposed to happen about 2 years from now. If you read across on the fund balance line, you see your state public school fund and federal grants funds carry zero fund balance, and that's normal. Y'all spend those funds in the year that you receive them. The other special revenue fund had an ending fund balance of $1,448,637. And most of the revenues that flow through this fund are restricted for various grants and other programs that come through the district. And your individual schools funds had a combined ending fund balance of $781,342. And this does represent the combined fund balance of all of the schools together. And your capital outlay fund had an ending fund balance of $120,916. And those amounts are restricted for capital outlay purposes. So I think overall, the district appears to be in good financial shape in these governmental funds. Any questions on this page before we move on? All right, let's turn over to page 58, and we'll look at the child nutrition program. And page 58 shows the revenues and the expenditures of this program for the year ended June 30th, 2022. Everyone found it? All right. If you look about 3/4 of the way down, the line that says net change in fund balance, the last line with 3 columns to it. In the middle, you can see the actual results for the year. This program added $2,203,731 to fund balance last year. And in the previous year, it reported a profit of $339,000. So the improvement in profitability over the prior year is primarily due to an increase in food sales and an increase in USDA reimbursements, which primarily relates to the increase in meals that were served last year with the children returning back to the classroom. The program has excellent cash balance reserves of over $5.5 million at June 30th, 2022. And overall, the program appears to be in outstanding financial condition as of June 30th, 2022. Any questions on the child nutrition program? Okay, and on page 60 is the first of 3 letters that we issued relating to our compliance testing over the board's internal controls and expenditure of state and federal grant awards. And we're required each year to perform compliance audits of the state and federal grants received by the district. And we're required to test a significant amount of payroll and general disbursement transactions as part of those audits. And we're happy to report that all 3 of these letters are clean, unmodified reports, which means there were no internal control weaknesses, findings, or question costs reflected in any of these letters. And we did issue a separate 1-page letter that each of you should have had in front of your book that has a comment regarding the EC program and just a recommendation for how improvements could be made in the completion of the annual maintenance of effort form. We've already discussed those that recommendation with management. It's our understanding that steps have been taken to implement that recommendation. And we also performed a good bit of testing on the individual schools, and there were no significant issues noted in that testing. Overall, it appears the school bookkeepers are doing a good job. And you also had a separate 3-page letter that we issued. We call that a required communications letter. And this letter basically has boilerplate language, and it states that there were no difficulties, disagreements, or uncorrected misstatements noted in our audit. And again, I think overall the audit went very well. We were very happy with everything that we saw and the testing that we performed. I think Ms. Chavis and her staff, they continue to do an outstanding job of managing the finances of the district. District's finances are very transparent. Anything that we ask for, any kind of backup documentation that we requested, they were able to provide it. And I think I've told you before, the school system finance is very complicated. It's there's a shortage right now statewide with finance officers, and that's we've seen quite a few we call it like disasters with finance departments in some of the audits we've had. It's nice to come to one where everything is in good shape.
Let's hope to have a great finance officer.
Oh, yeah, we've got a great staff. We really do.
Yeah, we do.
That was pretty much all I planned to cover. Was there anything I didn't go over that y'all wanted me to touch on?
No, it sounds like you're doing pretty good in finance. And we can get some increases. Increases.
Thank you so much. So you say we're doing well with the fund balance, because we know a couple of years ago, about 3 or 4 years ago, we weren't where we were supposed to be on that fund balance. So now
It's gotten up there.
You got it.
I would still say y'all are probably low compared to other districts of similar size, but again, y'all are one of the lowest funded in the state. So I think for what y'all have, y'all are doing a great job.
Yeah.
You are.
Thank you.
All right, thank y'all.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Ms. Davis?
So thank you, Dale. We do appreciate your work. It comes in and this team camps out in the conference room for a couple of days, and they come through our documentation, so we do appreciate your time. But Madam Chair and members, at this time, I am asking for approval of our 2022 financial audit as presented.
You've heard the recommendation by the superintendent for approval of our financial office that she's finished to be Ms. Stowe. May we get a motion to approve our finance?
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the superintendent's recommendation on the audit.
Second.
You've been moving in second that we accept the recommendation of our audit coming from our superintendent. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. It's been approved.
Thank you very much.
Next on the agenda, then we have child nutrition bids.
So if Ms. Carpenter would please come forward, our Executive Director for Child Nutrition, to provide information regarding this bid.
Madam Chair, Ms. Pickett, and all the board members, our Superintendent, Dr. Deborah Dallas. Good evening.
Good evening.
I have one final bid. I know you're all wondering, why is she back? I will tell you a little story. We've been dealing with this company for some years now, and Mr. Darryl Campbell was our vendor, and he passed away suddenly. And so it took them some time going through estate and all of that to get the company back together. So they're back together now, so we can, we had enough product to carry us through, and then they donated product to us to get us through. So they have submitted their bid in order, and this is Daryl's Gourmet Seasoning out of Eastover, Fayetteville. And we've been using them. This product does provide the USDA requirements for seasonings of our food. It's less sodium, all of the criteria are met. And they are one of the very few companies in this area that we can use. So we're asking if you all would please approve our final bid for 2022-2023 school year. Daryl's gourmet specialties. This is the seasonings that we use to season all of our food. Are there any questions?
Okay, so at this time, I am asking for the board for approval of the child nutrition bid as presented by Ms. Carpenter.
You heard the recommendation by the superintendent for approval of the Darrell Garment nutrition program as presented. Maybe get a motion, please.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve the child nutrition bid.
Get a second.
Second.
Been moved in second that we approve the child nutrition bid. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. So the nutrition bid has been approved.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question? Oh, she was coming. Is his family taking over?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, his wife and his wife, 3 daughters. Okay. They're taking over the company, yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. That's all we have for action items this evening.
Okay, next on the agenda then will be the administration. And we turn it over to our superintendent for the information items.
Good evening. So information item A is a review of several North Carolina School Board Association policy updates. So this month, the policies will be presented as information items and then will be moved to action items at the next board meeting. I would like to start off with the table that is prepared by the North Carolina School Board Association that outlines recommended, strongly recommended, and required policy revisions. So as you can see, you have it in your packet, is there are several policies that we will run through during this month. So basically, on the left column, it does talk about the policy number. It then provides the policy title and then the description of the update. So at some points, they'll say strongly recommended, information only, or required. A lot of the language is just a change or a deletion or an addition. So after reviewing them, there are no major changes, but it's worth us reviewing them this month and making sure that we always have our most updated policies online and in our official look at the board. So several of the first policies deal with board members. So you see the board member conflict of interest, the duties of officers, board policies, policy development, and dissemination and preservation of policies, and consultants to the board. So as you look in the middle column that talks about the updates, it will tell you briefly what those updates or revisions are. There's also one that we scroll down that talks about online instruction. So we've seen that change over the last couple of years. So it makes sense that a policy needs to be looked at because we have really evolved with our online instruction. School improvement plan, which we are all very aware of. There are some revisions, recommendations to that as well. 4110 is the immunization and health requirements for school admission. So as you know that we do have a requirement for immunizations and physicals. So there are some required changes that we want to make sure that we have included. Child abuse related threats, student sex offenders. As we go through this list, you're going to see that it covers a multitude of content. The last couple of pages are really just technical revisions. Ms. Downs, it will start on page 9 or page 10. So policies that are listed as just technical revisions, we're able to go ahead and update those. So as you're going through policies this month, you don't necessarily need to review those heavy because they're just small technical changes or wording that we are able to move forward and go ahead and update our policy. So I want to kind of show you our point of contact list. So as you're working through these policies, we want to make sure that you know who a good point of contact would be. So as you're reading about the board policies, if you have questions about what does this mean, or help me understand that, or why is that there? I would be the point of contact for those policies, okay? When we get to the school improvement plan, as you can see, that's 3430. Dr. Fortenberry would be your contact person if you want additional information. 4110 is Dr. Owens. So as you scroll through the list, you'll see that there are several, and your point of contact is listed that if you wanted to ask some additional questions. So within Assembly, we have uploaded all of these revised policies. So what we did is we made sure that you have the policies that actually have the strikeouts so that you can see where the changes are. Don't know if Ms. Bounds, if you can open one of those. Okay, so as you go through, footnotes are very helpful. They kind of let you know the why and if there's a change or, you know, why it was intended that way. But as you go through them, you'll see like this one, very minimal changes that are included. But we wanted to make sure that you had all of these policies as you review them. Okay, so as I said, when we come back in November, we'll continue conversation around these policies and we'll be able to approve any that we're ready to move on. And then at that point, we will upload and update all of our policies online and in our book. Any questions about the process that we'll follow?
Something, okay.
Okay, so right now you have all of the policies there, right? So throughout the course of the month, you have those to review. You have your points of contact, so when you're ready to have a conversation, you wanna have a conversation about policy that's related specific, you can reach out and we'll be able to kind of work through that. And then when we come back in November, we'll revisit and hopefully approve so we can make some updates.
Dr. Leonard's part, could you give us a list, get us a list of the contacts so that we don't
Yes.
have to go down?
It'll be on your board.
Okay.
In Sibley, you'll see a table that outlines all your policy and then who your point of contact is. Okay, and we will work over the next couple of months to continue to review our policy that we always have the most updated policy in place. Questions? Okay, if not, that is all I have for action item A. Thank you. Information item A. Information item B is Esser 1, 2, and 3 expenditures. So we wanted to take a look at our Esser funding. So at this time, let me ask Ms. Lorraine Chavis, our Chief Finance Officer, to please come up and provide this overview.
Good evening again. Last month, we were asked to give some detail on our Esser fundings, descriptions, and so we're going to sort of go through all 3 Esser fundings that we have received and just a little brief synopsis of what we have done with this funding. So we have Esser 1, which we got at the beginning of the pandemic, and with that, we received 6 different PRCs, and you can see the description as indicated below, above. With our Esser 1 funding, it was from 2019, and it expired September of 2022. So this one, Esser 1, has just expired on us with an expiration or liquidation date of January 31st, 2023, which means if we have done a purchase order in any of these particular PRCs, we have until January 31st to pay those expenditures. PRC 163, which was our first, big allocation of Esser 1 funding, we received $2,302,041. As of today, we've spent all of the $2,302,000. And what we had to submit an application with this, and what we spent this funding on was hotspots to provide students with students and staff could do remote learning while we were out with the pandemic. We bought supplies and materials to sanitize our buildings, that to help to prevent the spread of the infectious disease. We trained our employees on hygiene and sanitation protocols. We provided a COVID stipend, And we also hired part-time nurses to ensure coverage in all of our buildings. So as of today, like I said, this one has been expended.
One thing, do we still have any like cleaning supplies and all that stuff and sanitation for the teachers now?
We do have gallons and gallons of sanitation supplies and sanitizer. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Is it something like Clorox or?
I'm not specific what it is. I know whatever he's got, it does help with infectious disease.
Yeah, okay.
Because I think when we were purchasing this again, we were buying them in like 55-gallon drum buckets. Our next allocation, PRC 165, this was to provide subscription for digital curriculum packages. We were allocated $64,615. We spent $28,606. And with this, we purchased Discovery Education Science Textbook. One of the reasons we did not spend all of this funding is with any type of software you purchase, and some of these PRCs were very, very specific in what you could purchase. Like this one says digital curriculum. It could not exceed the life of the grant. So if we purchased a piece of software, it could not go, the life of that software could not exceed September 30th of 2022. So it actually had a cutoff date as far as you couldn't use it after that date. So that was one of the reasons we weren't capable of spending all that $64,000 that was intended for us for this grant, this particular grant.
So what happens?
It goes back to the state.
Well, okay, they put that deadline on there, right?
Yeah, all of these grants have a deadline, yes, ma'am. Mhm.
But they knew they would get part of the money back. That's the state, as far as I'm concerned, the state realized that they would get less money back.
But they encouraged us to try and spend it the best we could, yeah. PRC 166, it was to provide school units with the learning management system license. Our allocation was $30,712. We spent $29,920, which left us $792. We purchased 8,000 subscriptions, and when we were doing the allocation doing the purchase for this, we couldn't get another subscription in because it would cost more than the $792. So we purchased as many as we could because we purchased the Canvas Cloud subscription. So one more would have been more money than we had in that particular pot of money. So we lost $792 there.
How much more would that cost?
I don't remember. That was back in 2021. Yeah, I don't remember how much the additional would have cost. PRC 167, we received $90,263. This was to provide services for EC kids. And what we could purchase with this was any additional services they might need for compensatory time, any supplies and materials that might be needed that we could do during the summer to recoup some of the compensatory time that needed to be done with the EC students. So we had $90,263, and as of today, we've spent or encumbered the $90,263 in this particular PRC.
Could we have gotten a person?
We did pay some staff for the summer.
Yeah.
But all they were doing was providing that compensatory time for those students. Yeah, but we did provide staff for 2 summers, actually. PRC 169, this was to provide funding for employing or contracting with instructional support for either physical or mental health. And this would include our nurses or mental health or social workers that we could provide employment for. So our allocation was $241,634, and we did employ some social workers and a mental health person during the term of this funding, which, like I said, expired on September 30th, 2022. So the employees we had in this particular PRC, we actually had to move to another allocation for them for this school year. Next, we have PRC 170. We received $124,778. This was to provide supplemental instructional services. And when I say supplemental, it was to provide tutoring. So we allocated to each of our schools funding for after-school tutoring. And if you remember last year, they had the funds to do after-school tutoring. It was just hard to get people to do tutoring, and we were still in the middle of the pandemic. So we didn't spend as much on the tutoring, and then with this grant also, we were going to buy some supplies for assisting with instructional services. But with the supplies and materials, there was a 10% cap on how much we could spend on supplies and materials. So we spent the $12,000 that we were allowed to spend, but due to the fact that we weren't able to do as much tutoring, we had $20,767 left.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes, ma'am.
If you could have provided incentives, could you do that with that money? Like, it's gone.
Well, yeah, it's gone now.
I mean, I'm just saying, during that time, if it was.
I could only, we're not an incentive as far as I'll give you a bonus. It had to be tutoring. So it weren't like I could pay them extra. I mean, is that what, basically? Or you saying like maybe increase the dollar amount?
Yes, yes, that's what I'm saying.
We didn't look at increasing the dollar amount, because if I increased it for this particular grant, then I would have had to increase it for my Title I and my Indian education, which they didn't have the money in those to support it. Yeah, because if I could get one to tutor for this, then I couldn't get someone to tutor for my IEA. So we didn't increase any dollar amounts in those. Next slide. So Esser 1, like I said, expired on September 30th, 2022. And any remaining funds could be encumbered with the liquidation of January 31st, 2023, if applicable. And when I say if applicable, it was if we could, like I said, we had some PRCs. I couldn't do anything because it was software, and you can't buy software past September 30, 2022. So in Esser 1, we received a total of $2,854,043. We spent $2,791,706, and we have remaining $62,337. So we spent 97.82% of our Esser 1 funds. Any questions about Esser 1? Now we'll move to Esser 2. And as you can see, we have 6 PRCs that are associated with our Esser 2 funding. PRC 171, this was to provide additional assistance to the public school unit during and after the pandemic. With this particular PRC, we had to write an application, and we had to address 14 different criteria, which they called allowable uses, which the law had in place. We didn't have to address all 14, but these were the 14 criteria that they had as allowable uses. And they are addressing learning loss, facility repairs to minimize virus transmission, improve air quality, coordination of preparedness and response, providing principal leaders with resources, addressing unique needs of special populations, improving preparedness and response, training to minimize virus transmission, supplies to sanitize and clean, long-term closure activities, education technology, mental health services, summer learning, and other ESSA eligible activities. Our total allocation was $9,147,775. As of today, we have spent $7,499,801, which leaves remaining $1,647,974. With Esser 2 funds, we have until September 2023 to spend these funds, and and then a liquidation period of till January 31st of 2024. With our PRC 171, as I said, we had 14 areas of allowable use. We concentrated on 6 of those areas. The first was facility repairs, improvements to minimize virus transmission. What we wanted to do was get some more modular units so kids could be spaced out and get furniture, so to replace some of the furniture that got misplaced during all of the moving around during the pandemic. We budgeted $175,000 for that particular use. Next, we wanted to improve our air quality. We did some chiller replacements at a couple of our schools. We replaced a couple of HVAC units at some of our middle schools, and we budgeted $750,000 for this area of use. Improving preparedness and response, we budgeted for 2 new school buses at $185,000. On educational technology, we budgeted $2.6 million for our Zoom rooms, hybrid mobile carts, interactive panels, and computers. On our summer learning, we budgeted $3.1 million. If you remember back in the summer of 2021, we did the extensive 6 weeks summer camp. That's what that summer learning was budgeted for. And then we had other Esser activities. We have $2.3 million budgeted. We did the COVID bonus at the end of the year. That was one of the things that we've spent the other eligible activities on.
So,
Yes, ma'am.
so with the furniture, is that furniture, is that any school that need furniture, they have, that money allotted for them? If they need furniture within the school?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Okay.
And we have, and we still have some of that funding left. And at the beginning of this year, we've even purchased some furniture for some of those schools.
So the principal,
They contact Dr. Hunt and give them a wish list at the beginning of the year, and we look at it then to see how much is left.
okay. Thank you.
Next, we have PRC 173. And the purpose of these funds, we got $57,796. As of today, we haven't spent any. But these funds will be used to support mental health. I know we will be doing some staff development with these funds and also some supplies and materials. But like I said, we have till September of 2024, 2023, I gotta remember what year I'm in, 2023 to expend these funds. Next. PRC 174. Also, these funds have not been spent. We got $62,943. This is, and the plans for these, this is for child nutrition, our child nutrition employees. It's allocated specifically for child nutrition. It's a retention and recruitment allocation, or that's the purpose of this grant. So at the end of this school year, our intent for these funds is to pay a retention bonus for our child nutrition employees. And as you can see, some of these PRCs, they're very specific in who can and cannot use these funds. PRC 176, we received $247,801. We actually did a summer program because it was specifically for a summer bridge program to address learning loss. And we did a summer program in the summer of 2022. PRC 171, we received $151,066. This also was for a summer career accelerator program, specifically for grades 6 through 12. So this past summer, we had a summer program for them also, which was we spent $151,066. They give you all these little pots of money, and it's specific for a specific allocation. Next, we have PRC 178, and we were to provide a single competency-based assessment for the grades kindergarten through 8. We were allocated $54,931. As of today, we've spent $40,188. So like I said previously, these are ESSER 2 funds. They'll expire in 2023, and then we'll have liquidation period till January of 2024. We were budgeted a total amount of $9,722,312. We've spent $7,875,174. We have remaining to spend $1,847,138. So as of today, we spent 81% of our ESSER 2 funds. Any questions about our ESSER 2 funding? Okay, so next we have ESSER 3, and we have a whole plethora of PRCs in ESSER 3. I think we have about 13 different ones. First, we have PRC 181, which again the intent is to assist school units with the pandemic, during and after the pandemic, to help us reestablish or get back to where we were prior to the pandemic. PRC 181 is similar to 171 with the few caveats that in place that we must adhere to. One of them is that we must have a minimum of our funding set aside for learning loss. So of the 20 million, we had to at least put 4 million into our learning loss to show that we're trying to regroup the learning loss that we suffered during the pandemic. So total for 181 was $20,529,079. As of today, we spent $5,599,155 with a balance of $14,929,924. And just like the previous 171, we had the 14 areas of allowable use. With the 181, we actually addressed all 14 areas. In the learning loss, we have budgeted $6.1 million. Our intent is to purchase core curriculum and supplemental materials. And we've already done some of these things. We've purchased iReady, Bridges Intervention, Open Up, Formative, Desmos, Savant, Raw Hill, Discovery Education, and New Salem. We developed pacing guides for these curriculums. We've hired intervention specialists for all elementary and middle schools for the 21-22 and 22-23 school year. And also we've hired 3 dropout prevention specialists for the middle school for the 21-22, 22-23, and 23-24 school year. So these are some of the objectives we were using to address learning loss. Next, facilities and repairs. We budgeted $1.2 million. And with the $1.2 million, we're doing windows and doors replacements, touchless bathroom fixtures at all of our schools. And if you've been to some of the schools recently, you see the new doors that they have in place. They look nice. Improving air quality was another objective. We budgeted $2.5 million, and this was to replace HVAC units or do improvements to some of our HVAC units. Next, we had coordination of preparedness and response with $365,000. With this, we did printing, child nutrition supplies, coolers, insulated bags, and these are things that we have budgeted to. We've either done at this point or we will, or that's our plans to do. Like I said, plans, maybe picnic tables and postage. Next, providing principals and leaders with resources. We budgeted $2.3 million. We actually lumped this up under our learning loss because we said it actually addresses the same issue. But with that, our plans were to hire 1 psychologist, 3 guidance counselors, which I know we have 2 of 3 in place, 4 social workers, and like I said previously, in 169, which expired, the social workers that were in that, we moved to this PRC to pay them for 2 more years. And then mental health facilitators and nurses. Next objective was addressing unique needs of special populations with $625,000. AIG purchased curriculum, the Great Books of Foundation. EL curriculum was purchased, image learning and elevation, and then EC will be getting more supplemental resources. Next, improved preparedness and response, we budgeted $45,000, and this was to assist the translation of growing Hispanic populations, and we purchased a product called Think Right. The next objective was training to minimize virus transmission. We budgeted $230,000. With this, all employees last year did a COVID class on campus, and we paid them a stipend for taking that class. So this year, any new employees can take that class and get a stipend. So these funds were set aside for paying for that stipend for taking that course.
Specifically, what can we do for EC? What, is it a person, a one-on-one?
When you say, I'm sorry, when you say
I think, when you said that we can,
the EC supplement,
yeah.
the EC supplemental, we're actually purchasing Bridges, was it Bridges? And Voyager for those services. I mean, to provide those software for, yep. Mhm. And those have been ordered, yes. Okay. Next, we have supplies to clean and sanitize. We've got $169,000 budgeted. This is for pressure washers, vacuum cleaners, spray tops, wipes, paper towels, all the little essentials for cleaning. So we do have money set aside when we run out of the existing to purchase more. Long-term closure activities, $609,000. We are purchasing platforms to provide technology for online learning, like eCollect, Canvas, DocuSign, Scribbles. And then we have money set aside for transportation. You know, when we first went out with COVID, we were providing meals on the buses, and the fuel we couldn't pay with it with state. So if we were still in the middle of the pandemic and delivering food, we have fuel set aside for, or money for fuel set aside for, in case we had to go back into a long-term closure activity. Other Esser eligible activities, we purchased Major Clarity, which was $33,000, but we have right now $3.4 million in other Esser activities. Basically, that is there just in case something comes up in other areas that we might need to reallocate this money for. Educational technology, we have $548,000, which is for desktops and memory upgrades. Mental health services, $800,000 for SEL curriculum. And then summer learning, we have 1.5 budgeted for summer learning if we have summer camps for the 23 and 24 school year. Okay, so next we have PRC 183, and this was to address the urgent needs of homeless children and youth within the county. So we had a budget of $60,000. We've spent $39,051 and have a remaining balance of $20,949. And it's to provide additional support for our homeless children. And I know we've budgeted for supplies and materials, staff development, and stipends for staff assisting with the homeless children.
How many children do you think you got?
Is Peggy still here?
That's the Dr. Owen.
Yeah, that's a Peggy, I don't know.
Currently,
Current.
currently, or this school year,
Yes, ma'am.
we've identified roughly about 40 at the current school year. Last school year, we were at about 129 homeless students.
Yeah, so this-
And that
That's a
definition,
question I was getting.
What's that definition?
It's if a person does not have a fixed residence. And then there's some other areas too in terms of which they may qualify.
Okay. Like if they live in the land or something.
Well,
It used to be.
it could be, yeah, temporarily, but not, it really depends on the situation. If it's an arranged situation where they're living with the grandmother, then they're not, no.
Okay.
But if they're like, it's a temporary, they just lost their home and they're with.
So PRC 184, we received $81,555. Again, this is another pot or allocation of funds for our homeless, children. Also again, supplies and materials, staff development, and stipends for staff. Next, we have PRC 185, and the purpose of this is for EC children and related services for children's 3 through 12. So this is not our pre-K EC, this is specifically for our regular EC children in grades K through 12. So we received a total of $490,295. As of today, we haven't spent anything on this particular PRC, but we did budget for an additional teacher, personal care assistants, supplies and materials, contract services that will be needed for this particular population of students. Next, we have PRC 186, which is for our preschool EC children ages 3 to 5. We received $33,669. As of today, we haven't spent anything. These funds have been budgeted to assist with our pre-K children with an additional teacher and personal care position, also supplies and materials and contract services. So if you notice, 185 was for our regular and 186 was for pre-K. So they're very specific in what these funds, who these funds can be used on. Next.
Well, it's probably hard to find the teachers and,
It's hard to find a lot of people.
today, that's probably why the funds haven't really been spent right now. What happens if we don't find them?
Got to send it back. Well, now, one of the advantages to these is we can spend it on supplies. So we can get supplies for the kids. If we can't find a staff, we just have to then go back and amend our budget to reflect that we're just buying supplies. Okay. PRC 188 was to provide support in addressing COVID during the summer. So we would be providing a summer enrichment camp for grades 6 through 12. So our plan is to provide a summer program in the summer of 2023. The budget is for $194,000, and since we're planning for 2023, we haven't spent any of these funds yet. PRC 189 is to provide instruction through after school and before school to help address a learning loss in math grades 4 through 8. Our budget is for $210,448, and we're going to provide after-school tutoring with a focus on math grades 4 through 8 to help address the learning loss. We haven't started this after-school tutoring as of to date, so still $210,000 remaining. PRC 192, we received $92,162 as of to date. We spent $27,382. And this is to help mitigate cyberbullying. And one of the things we purchased with this so far has been the Gaggle software. And like I said, we can purchase Gaggle up until September 2024 with this, 2024 with this funding. So we still have a little while left to spend the remainder on this, but so far we've just purchased the Gaggle software. PRC 193, also, we were told specifically to contract with GaggleNet for technology. We received $28,801, and we've spent $28,801. So when they sent this particular PRC, they told us specifically what to buy with the PRC. So we have purchased our Gaggle software with the PRC 193. Next, PRC 194. This is $2,082. It's for our CTE program to provide options for students outside the traditional classroom. As of today, we haven't spent any funds of this $2,082.
What exactly could we purchase with that?
We haven't talked about a plan for that one yet. PRC 201, we received $206,488. And the purpose of this was to provide an after-school program for robotics education competition. And for students to pursue education and career opportunities in science, technology, and engineering. With this grant so far, we have purchased the VEX robotic kits to serve students in kindergarten through 12th. Early elementary lessons will integrate into lessons throughout the school year and will be included in the district's engineering plan for elementary curriculum resources. Upper elementary through high school will implement VEX robotics through extracurricular after school, and each team will participate in the district's robotic competition as well as regional competitions. So with this, we have purchased a kit for kids to work on robotics, for the robotics competition.
They really like that, enjoy that.
We haven't spent anything yet because we just did a purchase order for this. Okay. PRC 203, we received $654,512. As of today, we spent $654,512. The purpose of this was to administer a one-time lump sum bonus of $1,000 to every qualifying teacher. So during the 21-22 school year, we issued a $1,000 bonus to every qualifying teacher that was eligible for this. And one of the requirements, or the requirement for it, is they had to participate in one or more training between March 12th, 2020 and January 1st, 2022 that addressed the mitigation of COVID-19 in public schools, learning loss from the pandemic, or virtual instruction needed because of the pandemic. So of this PRC, we spent all of these funds. Okay, so again, ESSER 3 expires September 30th of 2024. Any remaining funds can be encumbered by September 30th with the liquidation of January 31st, 2025. If applicable, and when I say if applicable, we have it and it can exceed that date. Total ESSER 3 funds spent as of today, budgeted is $22,583,974. We have spent $6,350,041. Currently remaining, we have $16,233,933. So we have spent 28.12% of our ESSER 3 funds. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
With the ESSER 3 funds, and you were saying, I think it's PRC 185 and it was 186. Pretty much you were saying something about personal care. Is there anything that we've done to look at, because I know that you're very limited on the personal care, and I know they do personal care, but have we talked about anything what we can do to kind of scalp more, maybe increase a little as far as income or salary wise? Because I know that has been very limited, and you hear like at certain schools where you're using the PC to go to different, help out in other areas, in other classrooms.
The personal care assistants received
$15. They received
the same raise that when the raises were issued for classified, they did receive the same raise.
Okay.
So for a lot of them, that was a pretty substantial, because prior to that, they were.
I think they were about $10.
Yeah,
to
so
15.
we were able to bump them up to at least 15 last year. So which is what most of our other classified, right, based on the way the salaries were set and the raises are about that, if not more.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Another thing is, thank you for explaining that, because I am the newest one on the board, and just hearing Esser, and not knowing where it's going. You did a great presentation, and also I'm glad that you explained it, because I just don't want people in the community to think that we just do anything with Esser money, we just spend it any kind of way. That's not what we do here on the board. So I am glad that you explained that, because that has been stated, and that we know exactly where ESSER 1 go, ESSER 2 go, and ESSER 3 go. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, let me, probably not you, probably you. We did give the personal care people, did we add them to our insurance? No.
Yes,
Considered like
yes,
full-time, do they
yeah,
carry
yes,
benefits and stuff?
yes, they do.
Okay.
Mhm. That's correct.
Yeah, we do that up here.
Mhm. Yes, ma'am.
I would just like to thank you for not putting it in your typical format. We would have never gotten through it.
So it was good enough.
Now I know. I got plenty of notes, so I.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. James. Information item C is information related to our on-site Hope County High School replacement project. Last week, we did share an updated draft of the design with City Council, because remember, we were asking for approval to move forward with closing part of Bethel Road. And so they did take a vote, so we have the permission to move forward with the full approval, right? So we have to go through a process that involves another public hearing. But tonight, I did want Dr. Hunt just to kind of share the revised draft that the SFLA team and our team kind of worked through. Because the main issues that we hear from the community are the queuing on Harris, the backup, how many cars are lined up, we can't get out of our park, out of our driveways and stuff. So the teams really kind of worked with how can we not eliminate, but reduce the amount of cars that might be queuing in the afternoon waiting for pickup. So Dr. Hunt's just gonna give you a real quick overview of that.
Good evening, board members and Madam Chair and Superintendent. One of many updates to come. Ms. Brown, can you zoom in? There you go. If you scroll down right there, okay, kind of gives you an image here. It has some lines, some red lines with arrows on it. I don't know if you can see it very clearly, but in the PDF version that's in Assembly, you can zoom in on that and you can see those. So basically what we did was conduct or count the number of cars that were queuing in the morning and queuing in the afternoons on Bethel Road, including Wright Street and some of those other side roads that are over on that particular side of the neighborhood there. Of course, you have more student drop-offs in the morning than student pickups in the afternoon. I think that morning that we counted, it was over 300 cars that came through the line just for student drop-off. In the afternoon, there was a little over 100 cars coming on Bethel Road, coming through to pick students up, and that's including some of the cars that were over on Wright Street, and that was over in the neighborhoods. So speaking with SFLA, we kind of brainstormed a little bit together just to kind of come up with some ideas that what type of resolution could we offer to the community members. And while Dr. Dallas mentioned earlier, we don't think that it's going to eliminate all the vehicles on the road, but at least this is going to help with some of that traffic that's on Bethel Avenue or Bethel Road. So number one is right there in front of the main parking on Bethel Road. We kind of want that to become almost a one-way traffic, if you will. And I say one way, meaning that if anyone is coming on the Bethel Road towards School Road, they have to make that right-hand turn onto School Road there. But once they make that right-hand turn on the School Road, they can't turn anywhere else unless they turn into the parking lot that's in front of the school where the main office is now. So in other words, traffic will not be able to turn left to go into that parent drop-off or pickup lane. So once they turn right onto Harris, not Harris, on School Street, then they would be forced to go down to the book stop there at the traffic sign and then turn onto Harris Avenue, either left or right. And let me back up and say that on Bethel Road, there's about 1,800 feet there of road, okay? On School Street, there's roughly about 900 feet of school road. So one of the things that we tossed out or had the idea of is making that a 3-lane road. So it would be 2 lanes of traffic coming into the parent drop-off lane. And by doing that, expanding that into 2 lanes on the right-hand side there, that allows for the same amount of queuing to take place as what's on Bethel Road, which is roughly 900 feet on Harris Avenue. 2 times 900 gives the 1,800 feet. And that's not including the queuing or the amount of feet that's in that circular area. I think that was roughly about another 400 or 500 feet there, so you can imagine that'd be more vehicles. So going back to the road design there, is that if a particular, parents come in, ideally we want them to come in on from Harris Avenue onto School Street, because as I explained earlier, that's now a 2-lane, it's actually 3 lanes, but it's 2 lanes of traffic coming into the parent drop off. And that's where all the queuing would take place in the mornings and afternoons. So 3 lanes of road, I think that was the biggest, and that also frees up the left-hand side for the traffic going towards Harris Avenue in case any type of emergency vehicle would need to come in. Because ideally what we are hoping is that for any community members or residents that live there on Bethel Road is that it's going to free up that right-hand lane on Bethel Road so that whenever they pull out of their parking or their driveway, they can make a right on the Bethel Avenue and have a clear shot to come out to Harris Avenue almost. Going back on the School Street for those parents that are following the queuing going around the loop, once they get over to the main parking lot side and back on the Bethel Road, ideally, we would like for them to probably turn right, so that way it's just free flowing traffic all the way down back to Harris Avenue where Domino's is. And then there's no cross cutting of traffic on Bethel Road either, so free flow. Hopefully it'll go, and then when students leave out of the student parking lot there, the main parking lot, we want them to turn right as well, going down to Harris Avenue, down to, towards Harris Avenue to the stop sign down at Domino's. And then they won't be trying to cross over traffic on the Bethel Road, turning left out of the parking lot and causing any type of traffic jams, if you will. Hopefully I did a well enough job of explaining that. Does anyone have any questions?
So we would make a recommendation, what would the process look like? If we make a recommendation of like new roads, we would make the road.
Well, that would all be under like construction, right? That would fall, but you do have to confer with DOT and stuff like that. They have to make sure that the land can support it. So that's why this is all kind of right now in the design phase.
Dr. Hart, could you explain again what you were saying about the right turn at Domino's?
Yes, ma'am. I'm gonna walk up there. Can you zoom it out just one more time? Down at the bottom. All right, so Harris Avenue is over on this side, Domino's is over here, right? So it depends on which way are you referring out of the parking lot here?
Yeah.
All right, so parents are coming around the loop, and then whenever they get here, in order to keep that traffic free flowing, just make that right, come all the way back down, because if they try to turn left, they can turn left, but if they do decide to turn left, probably that's gonna have to be I would think it would have to be a duty station for a staff member to try to stop somebody that's on this side of the road so that somebody could turn left and would not impede or stop the flow of traffic that's coming around the circle.
Okay. I understand it, I do.
So Dr. Hunt, I know we were at the last city council meeting. Are they asking for us to come back and talk about a road going, you know, that road that they were saying? Or are they gonna go ahead and, they did approve Bethel, right?
Well, they approved us to move forward with it, right? So we now have to go, it'll take about a month. We have to have a couple other public hearings and things like that, DOT. But right now they've given us the permission. So when we go back to city council, we're gonna kind of look at possibly where the parking lot is, the student parking lot is possibly extending that down a little bit further.
Okay.
So it's not right there. And basically helping the neighbors kind of see like what that could look like if you put some shrubs and just to kind of give them a more 3D what that would look like. All right, thank you, Dr. Hunt. We appreciate that. Just want to kind of keep you guys up to date with where we're at. And information item D is the introduction of a new DODEA grant that Hope County Schools has received. And a little bit more than $1.7 million. So at this time, let me ask Dr. Don Ramsor, our Assistant Superintendent of Elementary, to share this news.
Good evening. Exciting news. We have been awarded another DODEA grant. This grant is a result of work that was in large part due to the brainchild of Karen Nichols, who was our coordinator of digital teaching and learning and media services. So we're really excited about this. And so, with each DODEA grant, we have a name, and the name for this grant is Fresh Reads, facilitating reading for every student in Hope. So this is actually our first reading grant through DODEA. Typically, our grants have been STEM grants. There is a STEM component of this grant, but it is really devoted to literacy. It is our third active DODEA grant. Our first grant that we are currently in, and actually this is the last year's, our 18 grant, was Hope, helping our kids explore diversity in STEM. That grant was for $1 million. The next grant was Exploration of Engineering through Health Science. That grant was for $1.4 million. And this grant is for $1.76 million, and it is a 5-year grant, just like the other. So just a couple of things, just to give you a broad overview, and you'll be hearing more about Fresh Read. The idea behind Fresh Reads is it's going to offer an opportunity for our students to do some in school, some after school, some during the summer, some before school, activities around literacy. There'll be some exploration of career interests in STEM and other areas, and again, that's through the literature that they're reading, the informational text. Some collaborative work to solve real world problems within the community and beyond. There's also some tackling tough topics through books to support social and emotional well-being. We know that that's certainly an area of need. And then promoting reading as a life skill for learning and just pleasure. So one of the things to know about Fresh Reads grant is that it is going to support elementary through high school. So we're excited about this grant. Some of our grants have been, elementary middle, some have been middle high. So this one is actually elementary through high school. And this will be done through clubs, through PBL or project-based learning modules, and through reading camps, focusing on research-based strategies. And building relationships around books, getting students to love reading. Some of the goals that we have is that, that we will leverage the media center. We've always thought the media center should be the hub of the school and of the community, a place for students to go and explore text, digital text and print text, and to interact with text. And then, of course, teaching our staff as well how to utilize the media center to its fullest potential. Also engaging students, multidisciplinarily through STEM, but also through career and technical education, the arts and humanities. So again, really excited about pulling it all together for our boys and girls. So just a couple of things that the funding is going to support, increasing the number of books available to students. And we know as we look around our media centers, we have some aging books on the shelves, and some of them are classics, and that's great, and others are books that students aren't checking out anymore. The way that the state looks at our media centers and sort of decides, the level of our media center is by the age of our books. And so we're weeding out some of those older books, but if we weed out books, we've got to have something to replace it with. And so this is an opportunity for us to increase the number of books that students have access to, both in the digital format, because we recognize that that is how some read, but also in the print format that students can have, checking out in the library, but also in their classrooms. So increasing those classroom libraries, and giving students access to home libraries, because we recognize that home libraries are very important to student success. Also, the funding will help with professional development for teachers, and go ahead, you can go ahead to the next one, and vending machine, book vending machines. It's another innovative way, approach to distribute books to students that they can take home in their home libraries. They're age appropriate paperback books. And really it's done, the kids kind of just gets to select what book they want. They use a token system, and this can be a lot of different ways. It can be based on attendance, it can be based on their participation in the grant programs, it can be based on their PBIS at their schools. Whatever the school, it could be academics, whatever it is, they get tokens just like they get tickets and things of that nature at school. They get recognized and they get to use that to purchase books so that they can take them home and add them to their school library. Any questions?
Great. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
How much print are you gonna have as compared to technology?
It'll probably, majority of it will be print. Now, one of the things with our, when we're using technology in books, it is very expensive to purchase books that are, it's actually more expensive to purchase them in a digital format because of, obviously, they kind of live forever. And our text, our paper, they don't have that kind of longevity. So you end up paying a little bit more. But the other thing is that depending on how you purchase that book. So let's say if I want to purchase one copy. If I purchase one copy, then I'm saying only one student can use it at one time, just like it were a print book. There is another way to purchase them where, students can just access that book, depending, numerous, but that is, significantly more important. Significantly more expensive. So we're gonna see a lot of print, and we, with the vending machines, that's all print. We recognize the value of having that book and being able to touch those words. But we also recognize that some students, read on their phone or on their Kindle or what have you. So, but we want to see books in the media center. We want to see books at their home. And so it doesn't matter whether you forgot to plug something in. You open that book and you can read.
How are we getting this out? I know social media, some people don't have social media, so how are we making this, put it out to the parents so they'll know?
So we are actually, the grant initial meeting is actually not until November the 6th through the 9th. And we will have a social media campaign. So Facebook will be sending something home. It's gonna happen through the media centers, the schools will have, we haven't quite gotten there yet. And actually this first year is really considered the planning year. With any JODA grant, the first year is considered the planning year, right? So that's part of, making people aware of what we're doing, getting stuff in place. And then the last 4 years are that implementation year. Now we try to get things moving a little sooner than the whole year, but we take that first year to kind of plan out everything once the grant's in.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ransler. And our last information item is our monthly financial report. If you have any questions, we will direct them to Ms. Wani Chavis. If there are no questions, that does conclude all of our informational items for this evening.
Okay, so at this time, then we are ready to go into closed session. So maybe get a motion to go into closed session.
Madam Chair, I move that we go into closed session, the board commences closed session under North Carolina General Statutes 143-318.11 to prevent the disclosure of confidential personnel matters, to consider matters related to initial employment of individual employees, and to consult with the board's attorney to preserve the attorney-client privilege.
Will you get a second?
Second.
Been moved in second, then we'll be going to closed session. All in favor? Those opposed? Then approved.